Hi, everyone. This is Tim Barron from Rocket Matter. Thank you so much for joining us today for the latest presentation in our Law Practice Management and Legal Productivity webinar series. Our guest today is Stephen Best, an attorney and founding partner of the Affinity Consulting Group. Affinity specializes in technology and management solutions for law firms and corporate legal departments. Steve focuses his practice on case management, time billing, accounting, document assembly, document management, paperless office, and cloud-based practice management solutions. Thanks so much for joining us, Steve. It's all yours.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you all for attending. And what we're going to talk about today, obviously, is PDFs and how you use them in law firms and how they will enable you, how they are one of the tools that will enable you to move toward a less paper practice. Before we begin, I'd like to just comment to you that I've gone to, in the last 13 years, having been a practice management consultant, and in the 11 years before that while I was practicing law, and I recognize that we really are a very paper-oriented industry, and because of that, beside the environmental concerns, there's a huge cost involved in purchasing paper, printing paper, tearing paper, throwing paper away, storing paper, and ultimately digitizing paper, hopefully. And I want to start the webinar with the concept that we can, with Acrobat and with PDF tools like Acrobat, you really can walk away from paper and avoid all of the costs associated with paper. So let's go ahead and begin. So let's talk about Adobe Acrobat versus everybody else. Adobe is a company. Acrobat is its product. Adobe developed the PDF standard more than 20 years ago, and they are truly, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, they are the creme de la creme of PDF software. And I say that because they are the first, they're the originals, and anything and everything that you may need to do to a PDF or with a PDF, you can generally do with Acrobat, and you may not necessarily be able to do it with some of the other products. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm endorsing Acrobat over every other product that's out there. I'm not. I just want to inform you that Acrobat, to me, in my opinion, is the standard. Everybody else tries to be like Acrobat. Why not just buck up to it? It's a few extra dollars. It is the most costly of the PDF production software out there. To me, it's worth every penny to have it and not have to worry about, gee, can I do it with this other product? Can I make a PDF-A, which I'm going to talk about? Can I use action tools with my other product? And we're going to talk about action tools later in our webinar. So that's my bottom line. I recommend Acrobat. I'm not going to specifically endorse it for you, but I think that it is the standard, and I think most of you on the line would agree with me. So let's launch into some of the tips and tricks that I can give you how to use PDF software better, specifically Acrobat, and why I think that's going to lend to a less paper practice. Number one is printing. Now, I've been to a myriad of law firms and legal departments, and I've spoken with many people, and it's very disheartening to a lot of people not to see printed words on a piece of paper. I mean, for those of us that went to law school in the 80s and 90s, we still researched in the books on the shelves, and we still gathered most of our information from reading words on pages, and we wrote on pages, and we, to this day, most of us still write down on pages. We still write down what we want to buy at the supermarket on a shopping list. Many of us haven't gone to electronically doing that, although that's probably coming in the future. The generation coming up behind us, they're all about, everything's an app on that iPhone. So the purpose of this conversation is to let you know that you can print from Word, from PowerPoint, from Excel, even from WordPerfect to PDF. And you can do one of two things. You can either print to the PDF printer. So, for example, in Microsoft Word, you can hit the print button and choose the Adobe PDF printer. Now, caveat to that, if you're not using the full version of Acrobat, and you can see over here on the right-hand side of my presentation, I've got the little Acrobat or rather Adobe PDF printer that you would see or you would choose when you hit File and Print in most software programs, and then you would choose that Adobe PDF printer, and your program would print to that virtual printer, and then your PDF software would open up with the printed pages or pages available to you on the screen at that point, and then we'll talk about how you're going to manipulate it at that point. So it really is as simple as print and select. Now, here's my caveat. If you have the Acrobat Reader, that's the freebie. That's the free software that you download. You don't get to print to the Adobe PDF printer. You have to buy the software, or you have to buy one of the other products that will allow you to print to PDF, and that's very important. Now, there are services out there that you can upload a Word document to, and they will email you back a PDF, and some of them are free and some of them are at a nominal cost. But again, that's time, that's not valuing the productivity dollar. Get it printed to PDF quickly and then move on. And I recommend that you buy a piece of software that will produce PDFs as a printed document. Now, if you're using Acrobat, you'll see in Microsoft Word, specifically, this is a snapshot right here from Word 2010. If you are using Acrobat, you can just go to the Word toolbar and click the button that says Create PDF. You also get to set a bunch of nice preferences, such as I want the end result to be a PDF-A format, and again, I'm going to talk about that toward the end. I want my result to show, I don't want it to open in Acrobat immediately, I just want to store it in this folder. So you have a bunch of preferences that you can use by using this embedded toolbar in Microsoft Word to produce the PDF. And of course, you can create the PDF, attach it to an email, you can do a mail merge with it, you can create and send for review, we'll talk about that too, and then you can add comments on every Acrobat production here under Acrobat Comments. You can choose whether you want to print the document, the page, or a selected area of your document. And once you produce that PDF, now we're going to talk about what all the things you can do to it. You can make it text searchable, you can secure it, etc. But once you produce it, you're going to want to save it within your document management system or your practice management software. Since our sponsor today is Rocket Matter, I thought it would be most appropriate to show you that those of you that are using Rocket Matter, after you've produced the PDF, you can drag it right onto the drag and drop palette within Rocket Matter by adding a document, drag it on there, associate it to its matter, and bill for it. And why not do that? That's the beauty of using a system like Rocket Matter. Take your PDF, drag it right onto the palette, and it will be associated to its matter. You can find it later. You can find it from anywhere you are in the world. That's the advantage of a system like Rocket Matter. All right. Now, once you produce the PDF, you will most likely want to make it text searchable. So if you've ever heard the term OCR, OCR means optical character recognition. If you've ever heard the term OCR, that's what that means. And when we create a text searchable PDF, we are creating an OCR layer. So when you produce a PDF, if you produce it off of Microsoft Word, if you scan it at your large scanner in the copy room that has its own room, pays rent in your office, you scan it in, most likely that scan, unless the software on the copier is set to do it for you automatically, I apologize, unless the copier is set to do it for you automatically, you will be able to you will within Acrobat you will want to make it text searchable, and to do that you're going to click on Tools in Acrobat, and this is a snapshot of Acrobat 10. Recognize text in this file, and what that does is that puts an OCR layer on top of your PDF document, and you don't see it, but it basically creates a layer of the words in the document to make it text searchable. And the benefit of text searchable is when you're looking for specific words in a very, very long document, you can search for those words. If you use document management software, you'll be able to search for the terms in that document within your document management system. So you can search the content, and it's important to do this as you begin to move toward the less paper environment, because you're going to need to find things that you've created quickly, and you're going to want to find documents that others have created quickly. And that's one of the most important parts of creating that OCR. Also, creating the OCR will allow you to, unless the document is secure, to cut and paste and copy and do snapshots and things like that. So OCR layers are very important. I recommend to you, and you can actually do that if we go back 2 screens, in Preferences within Microsoft Word. You can set up that you want it, whenever the PDF is produced, to automatically make it text searchable. Now, it takes extra few moments to do it, and it's a very long document. It might take you 10 minutes, which is a very long time in the world of digitized documents, but I'm talking hundreds of pages in a PDF, which would be a huge PDF document. You can set those preferences to automatically OCR. All right. So OCR, optical character recognition, it is known as the Recognize Text tool in Adobe Acrobat. All right, let's talk about security. So I've produced my document, I've OCR'd it, but I don't want everybody to be able to copy it, copy my work product, or I don't want people to be able to necessarily print it, or I want to make sure that only certain people have access to it, so perhaps I want to put a password on it. You can, under the Protection tool, so these tools are on the right-hand side in Acrobat 10. You can go under the Protection tool and you can add more protection. So you can do one of 2 things. You can encrypt the document so that it's 128-bit level encrypted, which is pretty tight, and only recipients and people who are given passwords can unencrypt it. Or you can add what's called the more protection, which actually puts a security layer on the document. A little different than encryption, because the security layer basically is an unencrypted PDF document where you've set some policies on it, such as I don't want certain people to print, I don't want certain people to be able to copy it, I don't want to allow the Snapshot tool to work, things like that. And you can create security properties and then export those properties to others in your office so that everybody will use the same security properties on that PDF file. So security does things such as password protecting, opening, editing, printing, copying, etc. And this tool, to view the security tool, you go to File, Properties, and Security. It is also available on the Protection tab in Adobe Acrobat 10. All right, Tim, this is about a 15-minute window. Do you want to stop and go over some questions now?
Sure, Steve. Now, one of the questions that a few people are asking is, are these options available only in version 10, or are they also available in prior versions such as version 9?
Most of these functions are available in version 9, but version 9 was more of a menu-driven version of the software, and version 10 or version X has a palette. So actually, let me go ahead and pop over to Acrobat just for a second. So let's open up. It's fairly not open up a paperless office. So over here in version 9, everything was on the menu, and I apologize, my mouse has a little bit of a delay with GoToWebinar. So everything in version 9 is up here, everything in version 10 is over here on this toolbar on the right-hand side. So most of the functions, if not all the functions I'm talking about, with the exception of the Action Wizard, which we'll talk about later on in the webinar, should be available in version 9, possibly with some different terminology. So where the terminology is different, I'll try to point that out to everybody.
Okay, and by the way, Steve, your mouse is working fine. There's no delay here.
Okay, I guess it's just on my end.
Another question that's been coming up: is there a difference any significant difference between a Mac and a PC version of PDF?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I have not really played around much with the Mac version of Adobe Acrobat.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's it for now. I'll just have you move on.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is something, and here is a terminology difference between version 9 and version 10, and that is the Typewriter Tool. So I like to call it the Typewriter Tool because I think that's a much more appropriate term for what I'm about to talk about. And in version 9, for those of you that are on version 9, it is in fact called the Typewriter Tool. In version 10, it's called the Add or Edit Text Box Tool. Don't ask me why they changed that. I think the Typewriter Tool is a really nice way of defining what this is. And in fact, if you look at the toolbar over here, there is a little icon of a typewriter. So why change the word? But, you know, far be it from any of us, we're not the programmers to decide what they're going to call the tools in the product. But what this does is it allows you, in other words, again, we're talking about an invisible layer sitting on top of our PDF. And it allows us to type onto the PDF directly in a designated spot. So actually, I'm going to pop back over here and I'm going to show you exactly what this does. So we're going to go over to our Typewriter Tool, which is right here under Add or Edit Text Box. And I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say I want to fill in some words right here on this line. I click right here, and now I can begin to type my words here. So the beauty of this is for those of you that have forms to fill out, your IRS forms that are not fillable, or forms from the courts. You know, one of the things in the family law courts of Fulton County, Georgia, here in Atlanta, they've got a lot of really good PDF forms available for litigants, but they're not fillable. So what people end up really having to do until they recognize unless they have Adobe Acrobat is they have to print it out, fill it in, or dare I say, take it to an IBM Selectric typewriter, type it out, and then scan it back in or copy it, etc. So why do that? Why waste the paper? Why waste the time? Because you got to get it back into electronic format anyway. Go ahead and get a copy of this software and take your PDF that you've downloaded, the PDF that you've created, the PDF that you've scanned, and then start typing on it. And it's as simple as going to Tools, Add or Edit Text Box, and in version 9 will be under the Tools menu. It's called the Typewriter Tool. And it makes filling forms really, really easy, and you really can avoid that paper monster. And if you notice on the toolbar down here, even though it's still called Add or Edit Text Box Tool in version 10, but look what it's called where the toolbar appears, Typewriter. The Typewriter Tool, I can increase my font, decrease my font, increase my spacing, decrease my spacing, change my color, change my font to any embedded Windows font, and affect the size. So if you want to type something in red, you can type it in red. You want to double space inside of a large text area, you can do that. And when you click on the Edit Object button, which is the item right above it, which is that will allow you to select the little boxes that layer on top of the PDF and move them around after you've typed things out. So if you end up accidentally typing a phone number above the line, but realize that the phone number falls below the line on a form, just change it. Don't retype it. Go to Edit Object, grab the box. You'll see the boxes will appear, and slide it around to where it needs to live. All right, Typewriter Tool, very, very, very useful in moving to a less paper environment. Probably one of the most useful things in the world to moving to that less paper environment. Don't print those PDF forms anymore. Type on them. All right, the Snapshot Tool. The Snapshot Tool allows us to quote unquote take a photograph of a piece of a PDF. It can be a picture, it can be words on a page, it can be instructions, it can be anything. And you basically click on Edit. Now this is the same in version 9 and version 10. You're going to click on Edit, and you're going to click Take a Snapshot. And then when you do that, you just put your mouse over the PDF, hold it down, drag out the box, and when you're done, you now have a snapshot of something in your PDF that you can paste elsewhere. You can paste it on another PDF. You can paste in Microsoft Word. You can paste it onto an Excel spreadsheet. You can paste it onto a web page. You can paste it into a PowerPoint presentation. For example, this I took yesterday with the Snapshot Tool. So I did a snapshot of the Edit menu. I took a snapshot of. Actually, I take it back. I didn't do this with the Snapshot Tool. This one I had to do with Windows Snapshot Tool because it was a picture of the edit menu. But so you can't take a picture of the program, you can take a picture of the PDF document. So I apologize, I misspoke. Please don't call me a liar. So Snapshot Tool, for example, if you need to reference a portion of a PDF, if you want to quote, for example, you've got you're typing a brief, and instead of retyping an entire paragraph that you found in a particular piece of case law, you may want to say, I'll just take a snapshot of it because I've got the case law in PDF. I've downloaded it from Lexis or Westlaw. I'll take a snapshot of that and I'll embed it as a picture or an image right on my brief because I'm going to quote it, so I don't want to change anything about it. Snapshot, drag your box out, paste it into Microsoft Word or WordPerfect or Excel or PowerPoint or another PDF if you like. If you use Adobe PDF, for example, as a presentation tool, so for example, let's say you're in court, you want to take a big blow-up of a contract, and you want to call out a particular paragraph of that contract because it's really important. You may take that PDF, put the contract up scan the contract in or pull it up in a PDF format, take a snapshot of the most important paragraph, maybe use the highlighter tool, take a snapshot of it all highlighted, and then layer it right back on top and enlarge it. And it's very effective because you can say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is the most important portion of our argument, is the fact that, the plaintiff signed away all of his rights under Section 10, subparagraph B. And that's what this case is all about. And you can leave it up there. It's very effective. It's highlighted. It's left up there right in the middle. And if it turns out in the middle of the case that you want to highlight and pull up something else and put it up on the screen, Snapshot Tool. Drag it out, highlight it, put it up on the screen. Okay. One thing is to be sure to click out of the Snapshot Tool to return to normal functionality. Otherwise, if you leave that take a snapshot on, once you turn it on, it's left on. You got to turn it off. So just be aware of that. All right, electronic image stamp signature. So one of the things that I do a lot in consulting on firms trying to go to less paper, and I advocate Adobe Acrobat as a key tool to going to a less paper environment. One of the things that we talk about a lot is signing your name. And a lot of firms will I'll sit around a conference table with attorneys and they'll say, well, we have to have the original signature. Not usually, but many firms feel that way. They want the original. I want to have the original signature. In those instances where you realize you do not need the original signature, and if you think about it, many times you keep copies of documents with signatures on them, but they're not the original signature. I just went recently down to Florida and went with my parents to their attorney because they wanted to redo their wills. When they did their wills, they didn't have any grandchildren. Now they've got 5 grandchildren, so they wanted to redo their wills. I was down in Florida visiting with them. Excuse me. So we went to see an attorney near their home that they knew, and at the end of the entire process, when they signed the wills, the attorney said, "Well, I'll keep a copy of them here in case you lose them, you need them, whatever. I have a copy. We'll maintain a copy for you in our office." The original was given to my mother, who in turn gave it to me, so I have the original. But I don't believe that I have to file the original in Palm Beach County when, God forbid, one of them meets their demise. I don't think I have to file the original. I can file a copy. I can file the attorney's copy. So, having said that, if you are so inclined, you can use the Acrobat stamp tool, and it's actually under the comments menu in X, and it's under the tools menu in 9, and you can basically create a stamp of your signature. Now, I do this all the time. Now that I'm actively engaged in providing technology solutions for law firms, we typically will do a proposal for every firm that we work with, so that you know the terms and conditions of how we work. And when I'm done with my proposal, I produce it to PDF and I stamp my signature on it. I do not print my proposals. And I'm going to suggest that neither do you need to print every single document. You do not have to file things with original signatures anymore in most jurisdictions. So how do you do it? I've talked about it ad infinitum. How do you do it? what you do is you scan in, you sign a piece of paper. So here I am, last piece of paper. Hopefully you're going to use it a long time. You're going to scan a piece of paper. You're going to sign your signature, sign your signature onto a piece of paper, scan it in. After you scan it in, save it to a place where you can access it later. Then you're going to go to this comment toolbar, hit the stamp tool, and create a custom stamp. When you create the custom stamp, it's going to say what document, and this should either be a PDF or an image document. Where is that signature? Where is this item or this figure that we're going to create a custom stamp of? Go browse out to the scanned-in signature. Acrobat will resize it for you. It'll make it nice and neat for you, and then save it. Then every time you produce that PDF, final PDF, you type up an agreement in Microsoft Word, you print it to the Acrobat PDF printer, or if you're using Microsoft Word 2010, you use the Create PDF toolbar. Create the PDF, save it. Once you're sure it's finalized, type on it, OCR it, do all the stuff that I've talked about already, and then go to Comment, Stamp, layer your signature on it. Now, I have a little trick to ensure that signature doesn't ever get lifted or copied or used elsewhere, but and I'll talk about that in a moment. But if you're worried about, well, someone will lift my signature and put it on other things, guess what? They can do that today. I can take an original signature off of a check that you send me. I can scan it into my scanner. I can take a clip of it and I can put it on other things. So it is capable of being done today. Now there is in Acrobat, we're not going to talk about it in this webinar, but there is within Acrobat a signature tool, and the signature tool can actually certify your signature, so that if it is an electronic signature, it makes it a little harder to copy it because there are certification words embedded over your signature so that others can't lift it. Whether your jurisdiction allows that certified digital signature as a substitute for your signature on legal documents or whatever, that's between you and the courts, or you and the state bar or the provincial bar, wherever, whether you're in the U.S. or Canada. One of the tricks that I'll tell you about the electronic stamp signature tool is, if you can, save the image, and this is another way that you can prevent your signature from being lifted. Save the image when you scan it in as an image, and see if you can find a piece of software out there that will allow you to blank out the background. So in other words, the image of your signature has no background. Even the white background is considered a background. It's a clear background. Then when you layer that on top of the PDF, it would be as if you had signed it over the other words in the document. And that's how I've done mine. So when I layer my signature onto excuse me, when I layer my signature onto a PDF, I can layer it and expand it by dragging my mouse over and above other words on the PDF, so that really nobody can pick up my signature, because if they try to, they'll see typed words behind it, which would be the flag to usually the recipient of someone trying to promote some illegal activity with my signature, to let them know that perhaps this really isn't original, it's a copy. So that's really important, and that's my last tip, is to try to, if at all possible, save the image with a blank background for the overlay effect. So and again, what I mean is you can layer that image on a line, but like I have my first name is Steve, so I have an S, and I have in my signature a big up swoop on the S, and that up swoop goes below the line, so it doesn't cover the line, but you can see it when I layer it into a PDF. All right, so that's the electronic image stamp signature tool. So Tim, that's about another 15 minutes. Do we want to stop for more questions?
Sure, Steve. We have a couple of questions, but just before we get to the questions, just a very quick word from our sponsor, which just happens to be Rocket Matter. For those of you who know us from our educational materials, whether it be webinars like this, our podcast, or our blog at legalproductivity.com, we also make a very fast cloud-based legal billing and law practice management software to keep lawyers organized and productive with their cases and their clients. We integrate with Dropbox, Evernote, Cremeta, Google Calendar, and a host of other applications, so that the web tools that you know and love are at your fingertips. Check us out at rocketmatter.com and our blog at legalproductivity.com. And we're also on the social networks. So if you're on Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus, give us a look and join us. Our username is Rocket Matter on all of the channels. Let's see. A couple of the well, before we go to a question, I would like to say that there are at least two folks, Todd and Jason, who affirm that there is virtually no difference between the Mac and PC versions of Adobe Acrobat. So that's an answer to a few questions that some folks have.
Yeah, that's good to know.
That's good to know. Why? Okay, here are a couple of questions. Are the security features resistant to software that convert PDFs to editable Word documents?
In certain circumstances, yes, and it really depends upon what software is going to convert it back. If you do it within Acrobat and you make the conversion within Acrobat, then absolutely the security features will kick in. If you're using some other piece of software, it depends upon how that software works.
Okay.
So I would say the answer is yes and no. It's a great lawyer answer.
Why does we've had a few questions about the Typewriter Tool, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't change that you can type something in there, but it doesn't change the font size. Have you had any experience around that?
I do know that if you're using an older version of Acrobat, such as version 9 or earlier, a lot of times the answer is be patient with it. Once you click into the PDF, sometimes that Typewriter Tool takes a moment to show up. So if you're typing and you want to change the font, typically you do have to retype it in the new font. So click into the PDF, be patient, wait till that Typewriter Tool shows up. Once you're able to type, you should be able to change spacing, colors, fonts, and size.
Okay, excellent. And for all of those who are still typing in questions, at the end of this presentation, you're going to have a few minutes to ask Steve more questions. And like I said earlier, for questions that we're not able to get to during this presentation, we can answer it after via email. Okay, so Steve, take it away.
All right, thanks. All right, so a few more tips and tricks, and then we're going to talk a little bit about court requirements and those of you that are facing the ever-present challenge of having to upload PDFs to the courts instead of mailing in pleadings as we used to and asking for the clerk to send us back a nice letter saying, yes, I've received it. I have some comments on that as well. So next topic. Now this topic or this tip or this item is only available in Adobe Acrobat Pro. So if you have the standard edition, you do not have the redaction tool. This tool is available in version 9 under the Tools menu, version 10 under the Tools palette, which is on the right-hand side of your Acrobat installation. And I apologize for that I keep coughing, but I'm just getting over a head cold, so I'm hopefully I'm not coughing in anybody's ear. Redaction is important when you really want to make sure that you're protecting, someone's social security number. You want to make sure that the recipient cannot see certain terms or words on the PDF document, and so you want to use the redaction tool. Now, many of you may be thinking, well, I can just put a block of text over it. A block, I could draw out a block with the comments tool. I could draw out a block, and the answer is you certainly can, but I can move that block. So unless you go to the trouble of creating the block, printing it onto a piece of paper, which is again what we're trying to advocate you not do, printing it onto a piece of paper, using up lots of toner, which is going to create that black block, and then scanning it back in as a PDF, that's one way to redact. Or upgrade to Pro and use the redaction tool. And when you redact, you can also set it so that it scrubs your document. And by scrubbing or by sanitizing, that means removing any metadata. And for those of you that are not familiar with, or you may have heard the term metadata, metadata is hidden historical information that sits behind your documents. And yes, metadata is embedded into a PDF. A lot of folks are under the impression that you only have to worry about metadata in a Word document. I can assure you there is metadata that you need to worry about on PDFs as well. So the redaction tool. Let's say we want to redact a certain piece of information, you will use the tools menu, you will use the protection item on the tools palette, and you'll see block out and remove contact. You mark for redaction, and then you save. You mark, you apply, and then you save. When you save, that text is forever blocked out. Redaction is an unforgiving tool in Acrobat. Once it's redacted, you cannot unredact it. So, great tip that I can give you here, hopefully you're all anticipating what I'm about to say, save the original PDF without the redaction before you redact. Because if you end up redacting the wrong text and you've never saved the PDF before, or you save over your original, then it's gone. And you have to go back to the drawing board and reproduce the PDF from wherever its whatever its origin was. And the redaction tool is really important if you share sensitive information. If you want to send, for example, some client information out to a third party, maybe you would consider redacting your client's social security number. Probably a good idea. You never know who is receiving that, whether they should even see that social security number. So the redaction tool allows you to do that, and that is a pro-only feature. All right. Now, it's often said that you can, actually it's not often said, it's said by me often. You can do anything to a PDF that you can do to a piece of paper except burn it or tear it or crumple it up and throw it in the garbage. And that means you can highlight, you can type upon, you can stamp, you can draw a circle, you can draw lines, you can create arrows, you can erase things, you can even add sound files. And I'll say that with the caveat when we start talking about PDFAs. Sound files and movie files, and you can embed those into PDFs too. Can't really do that on a piece of paper. So, mastering the comment functionality within Acrobat 10, and the comment tools are also available under the tools menu in version 9 and earlier. And you'll see in here under the comments area you have certain annotations like this one over here that I'm circling, which is the first one on the left if you don't see me moving my mouse. That is if you want to put comments on a page, such as, should we really include this in this document? Or see me, I want to discuss this. The highlighter tool, clipping in or inserting other files, adding sound, putting a stamp on it, inserting text, crossing out text, putting line throughs and underlining, or embedding a comment right on top of text. Including that, in addition to that, you can draw on it, you can create boxes, you can create arrows with instruction, lines through, arrows, these arrows that I've drawn here, for example, you can draw arrows, you can erase with a pencil eraser or a big fat pink eraser, and you can erase things on documents as well, all available in within Acrobat Standard or Pro. So the purpose of this is to let you know that if you are someone who typically reviews a document, instead of printing it and writing all over it, you can mark it up. And here's some food for thought. Let's say you want to edit your pre-bills. Pre-bill time, usually we waste reams and reams of paper when we're producing pre-bills. Consider using your software, whatever it is, to produce a pre-bill or a draft bill in a PDF format, receiving that by email, marking it up using the markup tools, and sending it back to bookkeeping or the billing department with your comments and corrections. You've saved paper, toner, probably a reprint if you need to see it again, and you've saved wear and tear on your printers as well. So food for thought. It's available. You can actually probably, in most of the time and billing software that's made for law firms, you can create PDF copies of your pre-bills and edit those templates so that there's places for you to actually write in things right out of Acrobat. You can even use the Typewriter Tool here. Very useful to if you want to correct some words, etc. So annotating, marking up a PDF, highlighter tool, comment tool, adding sound, adding stamps, etc. And we're going to talk about adding sound in movies and stamps in just a second because that's what PDFA is all about. All right. And my last tip before we start talking about the PDFA rules and why we need to worry about them, and for those of you that don't know, like what in the world is he talking about PDFA? I've just learned what a PDF is. Well, I'm about to blow your mind because now you have to know what a PDFA is. But in version 10, and this is version 10 only, not in version 9, I believe, and if I'm wrong, feel free to comment, the Action Tool. Action Tools were invented by Adobe to allow us to create little macros so if you use, for example, quick parts or use the macro tool in Microsoft Word and you're dependent upon it, you can also create macros in Acrobat, and macros in Acrobat are known as actions. We use the action tool to work faster. It automates certain actions. It'll do multiple steps at once. So it'll allow, for example, a sequence of tasks with a single click. And the more complicated tasks, for example, prepare for review, prepare for distribution, prepare for web publishing, the actions are step by step, and they guide you through and say, well, do you want to do it this way or that way? And that's really nice too. You can use the built-in actions that you see here, or you can use ones that you download. Now, for example, I downloaded recently flatten fields and comments. And the reason I downloaded that is because I stamped my signature. And what that does is it takes all. Remember, I told you that you've got the PDF, which is sort of an image. The layer on top of that is a layer of words. You might layer some Typewriter Tool items on top of that. You may layer a line or two or a highlight. You may layer a call out. You may layer your stamp. So you've got a multi-layer, even though you don't see these extra layers, you've got a multi-layer PDF document. Flattening all that is the same thing as printing and scanning it back in as a PDF with all the layers attached. So in other words, flattening avoids us having to print and scan. We can simply just take all those layers and flatten them down onto a single PDF document and not have to worry about anybody lifting things off those documents or unsecuring the document, taking a signature and copying it and pasting it into some other unauthorized use of that signature. So the flattened fields, now I didn't write it. I just went out on the web. I Googled flattened fields, and I knew what the terminology was. But if I wanted to secure or I wanted to see a bunch of actions, if you type in Acrobat actions, there are a lot of actions out there that others have written that you can download, and you can download several, like the flattened fields and comments, right off of the Adobe.com website. And I put the website up here, so I'll leave the screen up for just a second as I begin to talk about PDFA, for those of you that want to make a note of that. And also to let you know, and I don't know if Tim mentioned it, we're going to make this PDF available to you for download probably in the next day or so. So if you don't want to take the time to write it down, don't worry about it. We'll make the PDF available to you so you can look at it in the future. All right, so that's the tips and tricks area of today's webinar. Let me talk a little bit about PDFA and why we need to worry about it. So PDF stands for Portable Document Format. PDFA is essentially it is a set of standards. It's PDFA. The A stands for archive. I blanked out on what that stood for just a second. And essentially, it's a set of standards that were designed by the International Organization for Standardization, or the I.S.O. Here's the I.S.O. Just if you want to see what they look like. That's the original I.S.O. in 1946. So these are the people, as you look at the screen, these are the people who are creating standards for us. Not these people, but a different group of people. So anyway, the I.S.O. is creating this standardization of PDFs for archive purposes so that we can preserve PDFs for long periods of time. That's the basic reason why the courts in most jurisdictions have said, when you give us a PDFA, when you give us a PDF, it must meet PDFA standards. And typically what that means is, and I have a list of what the standards, what the most popular standards are, but the purpose, again, long-term preservation of electronic documents, about creating, viewing, and being able to see PDFs in the future. The standard doesn't create the, it's important to note that the standard, the PDFA standard, is not an archiving strategy. It is a profile for the way a PDF should be produced, and so that its visual appearance will be exactly the same way everywhere in the world, and we should be able to read a PDF document 30, 40 years into the future or longer without having to worry about a damaged WAV file or a damaged movie file or a damaged image that's associated with it. Now, certain images are allowed, but I've got a list for you, and again, we're going to make this available to you so you can read it. Don't forget these good folks at the I.S.O. You know, one of the things I liked about this was this was the first International Standardization Organization meeting in London in 1946, and I noted that there were quite a bit of women on the I.S.O., and I thought that that was very progressive and really cool for this organization, this international organization. All right, so let's take a look at PDFA profile mandates. No audio or video content. We want to avoid JavaScript and any executable file launches. Like if you embed into a PDF a hyperlink, you have to make sure that the hyperlink is removed because it's not going to link to something. Perhaps that web page that it may point to won't be around in 10 years. All fonts must be embedded and also be legally embeddable for unlimited universal rendering, PostScripts, Time, and usually they want you to use fonts like Times or Helvetica. Personally, I don't like Times Roman. I think that's so 1990s, but most of the Helvetica, most of the standard Windows fonts are okay. And the cool thing about this is you can make a note of this and you can worry about it, or you can think to yourself, how will I ever know if my PDF is PDFA compliant? And the best thing about that, save it as a PDFA, and Acrobat takes care of it for you. And anything that's in there that it anything that should not be in there, it will tell you that I'm either going to scrub it, I'm going to wipe it, I'm going to take care of the PDF for you to make sure that it's PDFA compliant. So back to our presentation. So that's all we need to worry about as it relates to PDFA. Make sure, and I think that in 2013 it's probably mandated in most states and in provinces that you've got to give the courts a PDFA document. They will reject a regular PDF. So make sure that your staff is aware that to do the file save as PDFA, and Acrobat will make sure that that all of this is taken care of for you. All right, so conclusion of today's webinar. I hope you would agree with me that mastering PDF functionality is one of the main steps to taming what I call the paper monster. And I call it the paper monster because, you know, the paper monster costs us a lot of money. It's beyond the purchase of paper, the purchase of toner, it's storing that paper. That's the biggest expense of maintaining paper. And if you've got a lot of paper already, if you've got paper in a warehouse, there are services out there where you can give them boxes and boxes of paper, and they will in turn return to you CDs or DVDs full of your documents. So take a look into that, especially if you want to avoid the ongoing costs of paper storage. And make today the first day. You know, today is a brand new day. Start using Acrobat more and more in your practice, as much as you possibly can, to avoid the idea that everybody has to print. And like I said, PDF and PDFA, I should have added in here, increasingly important for filing documents with courts. Read up on what a PDFA is. If you just Google PDF/A, there's a myriad of information out there about what it is and how to make sure your PDF documents are compliant. Remember, if you are a Rocket Matter user, store that PDF in Rocket Matter. Upload it onto that great document upload palette and associate it to its Matter so you can find that PDF or any document. You know, Word documents can go up there, Excel spreadsheets can go up there, PowerPoints can go up there, WordPerfect documents if you still use WordPerfect. And I say that with great respect. WordPerfect is a fine program. That can all be associated to your Matter in Rocket Matter, and that palette is really, really slick. And then lastly, decide if your firm needs Acrobat Standard or it needs the full functionality of Acrobat Pro for things like adding new actions to the action wizard, redaction tools, etc. So that is our webinar today. That was my email address. Tim, I'm going to turn it back over to you now. If you want to go ahead and go through some more questions with me, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Stephen. There does seem to be a little bit of confusion about which version of Adobe. For instance, many of us have when we get a computer, it comes already with an Adobe Acrobat something in there, and then there's Adobe Acrobat Pro, and then there's Standard. For the issues and the functionalities that you discussed during this presentation, which is the best? Is it the thing that comes with our computer? Is it the Pro or the Standard?
Okay, so what comes with your computer is typically Acrobat Reader. Acrobat Reader is free, and it is as simple as saying you get what you pay for. If you pay nothing, you get virtually nothing. All the Acrobat Reader does is allow you to read PDFs that others have created. So that's all that the free reader. And if you at home, for example, on my wife's new computer at home, I just downloaded the free reader for her. She's typically not going to produce PDFs, although I really want to go paperless at home. So I'm probably going to end up getting the next step up, which would be Standard. So Adobe Acrobat Standard, it runs about anywhere from $200 to $250. Acrobat Standard will have all of the tools and bells and whistles that I showed you, with the exception of adding new actions and the Redaction tool, and I believe there's one other item in Standard that you won't find, or that you won't find in Standard, that you will find in Pro, which is the creme de la creme. That's everything. So Adobe Acrobat X Pro or Professional is the top of the line. And I don't know about the Mac versions, whether they come in Standard or Pro, but I probably should learn that myself and know that information. So Reader, free, download it today to read other people's PDFs. Standard, everything I showed you except for redaction tools and adding things to the action menu, and Acrobat Pro. Oh, and bait stamping. That's what it is. Those are the three things. Adding actions. So in Standard, you can't add a new action, or you can't redact, and you can't bait stamp. In Pro, you get those three. You get everything I showed you plus those three things. I hope that clears it up.
Thanks, Steve. There is also a few questions about how to create a signature on a clear background. You had mentioned, because I think the issue is if you create a signature on a white background and you try to put it into a PDF document, it can sort of cover lines and other text. How do you create a signature on a clear background?
You're going to need some sort of another piece of software to do that for you. You can't do that with Acrobat alone. Sometimes you can do it with the paint tools that come with Microsoft Windows. Sometimes you can do it with PowerPoint when you save an image. There's a myriad of different ways to do it. Unfortunately, in the next 5 minutes, I can't walk you through all the different ways to do it. But one of the ways sometimes when I don't know the answer to things, I just go to good old Google, and I might say, I want to create an image with a clear background, and it'll give me some tips and tricks and some free ways to do it. But definitely, if you're going to use the stamp signature tool concept that I introduced, really try to get that signature stored into the stamp tool with a clear background, and it'll help a lot.
If you have a Mac and you use Keynote, Keynote is a great program for editing video, for editing images. Also, for instance, you could do a signature and then you could just clear out the white background. Just a quick tip. And
I think you can do that with PowerPoint too.
Yes.
You have to finagle it a little bit, but I believe it'll work.
Yep. When you scan a document in, should you perform the OCR function first and then save as a PDF or a PDF-A, or vice versa?
I don't think it matters. I think it's a matter of what's the most productive way for you to do it. If you scan a document in on your scanner, and the scanner software itself can do the OCR layer, why not do it at the time you scan? I can also tell you, for example, the Fujitsu ScanSnap S1500 model, which you can get from like Newegg or Amazon or Best Buy, that software, or rather, I'm sorry, that scanner, it's a desktop scanner, it's a great scanner, I actually use it myself. It comes with Adobe Acrobat Standard, and you can set it that every time you scan it, before it produces a document, it does the OCR for you. So that's the Fujitsu ScanSnap S1500, and I endorse that product. It's a phenomenal product.
Steve, I second that. If
Yeah.
you are looking to buy an Adobe program and you just want to spring for a few more dollars and get the ScanSnap, it does come with a full Adobe Acrobat standard, and it's really really great. That's all the time we have for questions. We're gonna follow up with the other questions via email. And Steve, love to thank you for the very terrific and very informative presentation. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Please send me an email. It's tim@rocketmatter.com, and let me know what you thought of the presentation and if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics. Also, if you'd like a copy of we've recorded this and we're going to put it up on our legal productivity site very soon. So if you want to be alerted when that's going to be up, or if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, just shoot me an email. Again, that's tim@rocketmatter.com, and I'll follow up with you. Thanks again for attending, and thank you, Steve. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.